dramatic warning: global economic shock of biblical proportions will be brought about by a US-China war in the Pacific, and the US is also warning Europe concerning this because they want to share information about what could be going on. The stark US warning was shared with European Commission officials as the US and partners begin to consider how they might use sanctions against China this time. A global economic shock will trigger a conflict over Taiwan. The US is warning European countries in a bid to speed up contingency planning amid growing concern about military action in the Indo-Pacific. The State Department has shared research with Western partners and allies that estimates a Chinese blockade of Taiwan would cause annual economic loss of $2.5 trillion, according to 6 people familiar with the research, which was commissioned by the Rhodium Group. The stark warning was shared with the European Commission and European government officials as the US and partners begin to consider how they could use sanctions against China for any military action against Taiwan, the Financial Times reports. Extraordinary design. Washington is using the report to stress to European countries that a conflict in Taiwan would have significant implications for Europe as well. 2 officials said that the US and EU has begun talks on how to prepare for a potential conflict over Taiwan. The Financial Times earlier this year reported that the US had held emergency planning talks with the UK for the first time. 2 people familiar with the US-EU discussions said some officials believe preparing contingency plans and making them public could become part of a strategy to deter China. Some US and European officials argue that the specter of massive global economic damage from a conflict in Taiwan is necessary to rally international support to deter China. The example of Ukraine. The US also used the example of the Russian invasion of Ukraine to emphasize the need to consider contingencies. The sharing of the research comes as senior US officials and military officials are increasingly talking about the threat facing Taiwan. Foreign Secretary Antony Blinken of the US noted twice last month that the US believes China has stepped up efforts to reunify with Taiwan. Joe Biden and Xi Jinping are expected to discuss Taiwan when the US and China presidents hold their first face-to-face meeting as leaders in Bali on Monday, November 14, on the sidelines of the G20 summit. Over the past year, Biden has said on 4 occasions that the US would defend Taiwan against an unprovoked Chinese attack. The State Department declined to comment on the report. A spokesman emphasized that the US has an enduring interest in peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, which is a matter of international concern. Creepy similarities to what's happening with Ukraine. A senior EU official compares the release of the report to the US move last year to release information about Russia's military buildup around Ukraine when some EU capitals rejected the idea that Vladimir Putin would invade. And the official added, "We have learned a lesson from this." Daniel Rosen, a partner at Rhodium, declined to comment on whether the consulting firm had prepared a report for the State Department. However, he said the company had worked on financial scenarios related to Taiwan for years. The report said Taiwan would take the biggest hit, but the economic consequences in China would also be huge, and the effects would reverberate throughout the global economy. He said Southeast Asia, a region where many countries want to avoid taking sides and claim a China-Taiwan conflict has nothing to do with them, would take a big economic hit. An incalculable economic blow will happen to the world. In terms of industries, semiconductor-dependent supply chains led by the automotive, service and PC and mobile phone sectors will suffer the most disruption, the report says. The US has grown increasingly concerned in recent years about its reliance on Taiwan for chips. The report warns that trade finance for Chinese companies will dry up and once Beijing crosses the conflict line over Taiwan, causing a major shock to global trade. He also said that due to the importance of China as an economic partner for developing countries. Such a shock could push more than a dozen emerging markets into financial crisis. This was from financialbankingnews.gr. I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.